What just transpired will astound you. News of Bishop T.D. Jakes' severe heart attack began to circulate, and the Christian community was rocked by shockwaves in a matter of minutes. People were incredulous. How could a man who had always exuded strength, power, and vitality experience this? T.D. Jake was a spiritual leader with millions of followers who stood as a pillar of religion for many years. However, this unexpected medical emergency brought up important issues. Was it overwork, stress, or something more serious? It seemed like a rumor at first, but as more sources verified the information, reality began to set in. The renowned Potter's House pastor, T.D. Jakes, had experienced a severe heart attack. Here's the startling bit though. Some claim that this was more than a simple medical emergency. Something far more significant could be at play here, something that could alter our preconceived notions about him. When the news initially surfaced, reactions erupted on social media. While some people began to ask awkward questions, others prayed for his recovery. Was there a secret activity taking place behind the scenes? Had T.D. Jake been fighting health problems in secret for months? The most important question of all is whether he anticipated this. There were rumors that the heart attack wasn't as abrupt as it appeared. According to insiders, there had been warning indications for months, but the public was either unaware of them or ignored them. According to others, he appeared frail, worn out, and exhausted in his most recent performances. Others saw that, in contrast to his usual practice, he had started canceling events. Did this mean his body had been deteriorating under stress? Or did these abrupt alterations have another cause? However, things start to become interesting at this point. T.D. Jake was not your typical pastor. He was a public figure with a great deal of responsibility, a businessman, a leader, and a best-selling author, overseeing an empire of books, seminars, and media initiatives, while leading a megachurch with thousands of members. There was a tremendous responsibility attached to it all. People started to worry if he had finally succumbed to the pressure. One of the main causes of heart attacks, according to some experts, is stress, particularly for those in high-pressure leadership positions. Was it possible that T.D. Jake, a guy who had consistently lectured about faith and tenacity, had been quietly bearing the burden of it all? This wasn't only a health catastrophe. If that's the case, it served as a warning. This is where it becomes more sinister though. According to other accounts, stress may not have been the only factor in this heart attack. Is there something else happening? Whispers that there was more to the tale than what the public was being told began to circulate. This was interpreted by some as a spiritual assault, indicating that T.D. Jake had been encountering strong resistance even from members of the church community. Others asserted that his health issues could be related to covert betrayals, financial strains, or internal tensions. An already startling incident was made even more mysterious by these conjectures. Then the moment that rocked the world arrived. At last, T.D. Jake himself spoke up. People were stunned by what he disclosed. He acknowledged for the first time that he had been overexerting himself. He talked about the tremendous strain of running a worldwide ministry, the burdensome duties, and the ongoing pressure to remain strong even when he felt weak. He recounted the horrifying moment when he recognized that something was seriously off, when he felt his chest constriction, shortness of breath, and discomfort. This time, his body wouldn't let him push through the signs, even though he knew he had been ignoring them. He was now forced to confront a harsh reality. He wasn't unbeatable. This is where it becomes even more startling though. T.D. Jake made a clue in his comments that nobody anticipated. He acknowledged that he had had to reconsider everything because of this heart attack. His well-being, his obligations, and even his potential for ministry. Was he preparing to leave his position as leader? Was the Potter's home about to undergo a significant transformation? His remarks raised more questions than they did answers, and the conjecture only intensified. This is when the huge twist comes in. His answer isn't being accepted by everyone. What if the information being given about this heart attack is not all there is to it? According to certain accounts, this problem has a secret cause, and everything we believe to be true about T.D. Jake and his ministry might be altered if those allegations prove to be accurate. Before we do that though, let's examine the subtle clues that everyone missed. Long before this heart attack, there were signs that something was severely up. It becomes even more intense at this point. Disturbing new information began to emerge while the public was still reeling from the devastating news of T.D. Jake's heart attack. Those who had known him for years started to speak up, pointing out that the warning signs had always been there, but that no one had taken notice. Was there any way this whole thing might have been avoided? If so, What prevented action before it was too late? TD Jake had been clearly exhausted for months before to his heart attack. He no longer resembled the man who previously dominated enormous stadiums with boundless enthusiasm when he appeared in public. Once booming with intensity, his voice sounded softer. His once powerful actions had slowed to the point of hesitation. Even his increased pauses during sermons, as if he was having trouble breathing, were noticed by some of his followers. The most absurd thing is that folks thought he was simply exhausted from working too much. Nobody believed it to be a serious matter. However, this is where things become more sinister. It was more than simply fatigue. In fact, TD Jake had canceled several engagements in the months preceding his heart attack, and that was very uncommon for a man like him. He had established an unbeatable reputation over the years, always showing up no matter what. Insiders realized something was off when he began to pull out of events. While some think he was concealing his health issues, others said he blamed it on his hectic schedule. Why would he do it though? Did he fear appearing weak? Was he exerting too much effort? Or was there another explanation? Then the most terrifying information appeared. Even TD Jake said he had been disregarding the warning signals. He recently admitted in a statement that he had been experiencing extraordinary exhaustion, dizziness, and chest pain for months. Even though he realized something wasn't right, he continued as usual without stopping down. He persuaded himself that it was simply stress and that he would overcome it as usual. However, his body had other ideas this time. It seemed as though his body was urging him to stop when the heart attack eventually occurred, preventing him from continuing to ignore the issue. This is where it becomes even more startling though. According to several insiders, TD Jake was dealing with more than simply physical fatigue. Behind closed doors, he was also coping with severe mental and spiritual stress. Was there a secret activity taking place behind the scenes? Could he have been overwhelmed by the demands of managing a megachurch empire? Rumors began to circulate that he may have been burdened more than he admitted by internal strife, financial strains, and even betrayal from close colleagues. Then a different theory surfaced, one that rocked the religious community to its foundation. What if this heart attack was a spiritual attack as well as a medical one? According to several pastors and religious authorities, TD Jake had been the target of spiritual warfare and had encountered resistance from both inside and outside the church. Jake has undoubtedly had his share of detractors and adversaries. From some who say he preaches affluence instead of genuine faith to those who think he has grown too strong, too rich, and too influential. Was this medical emergency a sign from God, or was it an assault designed to defeat him? The most important question of all is what will happen next. As one of the most influential people in contemporary Christianity, TD Jake has spent decades establishing his reputation and inspiring millions of people. But may he finally be thinking about leaving his position as leader after this huge wake-up call? According to several people close to him, his wife, Sarita Jakes, in particular, has been advising him to calm down. Could this be the turning point in history? This is when it becomes even more bizarre. Not everyone thinks that health problems were the only cause of this heart attack. Some mothers believe that something considerably more significant, something that hasn't been made public yet, was happening behind the scenes. There's more to this tale than TD Jake's health. If these claims are accurate, it might be about leadership, authority, and a choice that has the potential to rock the Christian world as a whole. But before we get started, we should discuss the increasing controversy around this matter, since what people are saying right now has the power to completely alter the course of events. This is the startling part though. Some people began looking into this further, and what they discovered altered everything, even if the majority of people thought it was merely a health issue. The story appeared straightforward at first. A dedicated preacher has a heart attack as a result of stress and fatigue. However, it became evident that there was more to this than first appeared when more people started to speak up. Rumors were suddenly circulating like wildfire. Among the more contentious theories, some individuals think that TD Jake's heart attack was a spiritual warning rather than merely a personal health issue. This notion held that God was bringing him low, telling him that it was time to take a step back, think things through, and make a change. TD Jake had been charged for years with spreading the prosperity gospel, which holds that success and fortune come from having faith. His critics contended that he had strayed from the authentic Christian teaching due to his extravagant lifestyle, multi-million-dollar enterprise, and influential connections. Some even said that he was no longer so much a preacher as a businessman. Many were now wondering if this health problem was a sign from God, a warning that he needed to reevaluate his priorities. T.D. Jake created a huge company, but did he lose sight of humility? One social media post went viral, saying, "God will take away what you put above him." There is more to this heart attack than meets the eye. Others went a step farther and implied that he might be nearing the end of his tenure as head of the Potter's house. This notion, however, was not universally accepted. Many of T.D. Jake's followers actually thought that this was a spiritual assault rather than a warning from God. They contended that Jake had been battling a fierce spiritual battle for years, encountering resistance from both inside the religious community and from critics. According to renowned preacher Pastor Jamal Bryant, Satan only attacks those who are a threat. If Bishop Jake is under fire, it's because he's shaking the kingdom of darkness. Could this heart attack have been more than a mere frightening experience? Could it have been a conflict between spiritual forces? Many of his supporters thought that because of his overwhelming influence and message, the opposition was attempting to overthrow him. Then came another unsettling rumor that nobody anticipated. According to several accounts, T.D. Jake had been battling significant internal issues, both personally and inside his congregation behind closed doors. Rumors began to circulate that the Potter's household had experienced leadership conflicts. Some people think that Jake wasn't prepared to make the changes that some of the people in his inner circle were urging him to. Could his health problem have been exacerbated by these internal stresses that were dragging him down so much? Then the most important question of all was raised. Was T.D. Jake's need to resign as leader indicated by this heart attack? People had been silently speculating about what might happen when T.D. Jake was unable to lead for years. His health crisis, according to some church insiders, was a blatant indication that it was time for him to hand the torch on. This heart attack is making those conversations much louder, a former church employee reportedly informed a source, referring to the long-standing, private discussions concerning Bishop Jake's successor. And now the rumors were intensifying. According to another unnamed source, some of us think this is God's way of saying it's time for new leadership. Would T.D. Jake make a retirement announcement? Would he back off and let someone else take the initiative? Or would he come back stronger than before, intent on demonstrating that he wasn't finished yet? There was no doubt about that. The entire globe was observing. However, there was one last twist that nobody anticipated before we got to it, because a fresh round of controversies struck just when folks believed they understood what was going on. One that has the potential to alter our perceptions of T.D. Jake's leadership, ministry, and future. This is when it becomes even more bizarre. Nobody anticipated the fresh controversy that broke out just when everyone thought the rumors were subsiding, because rumors about what would happen next began to circulate while T.D. Jake was still receiving medical attention and contemplating his spirituality. Would he pause for a while? Would he reduce his obligations? Or was his tenure as the Potter's house leader coming to an end? Then the most startling thing happened. According to several sources, T.D. Jake was reevaluating his plans for his ministry career. Furthermore, there were reports that he was seriously discussing the notion of resigning. According to reports, Jake's family and close advisors were pushing him to prioritize his health after he had spent years building an empire. According to insiders, his children and wife, Sarita Jakes, were extremely worried and had been pleading with him to slow down. According to one insider, he has been told to step aside by his family for years, but he has never heeded their advice. They're informing him that he has no other options following this heart attack. Things became even more intense at this point. According to reports, conversations for changing the Potter's leadership started inside their home. If T.D. Jake were to resign, who would take over? Would it be a member of his own household? Would someone else become the leader? Or did the size of this religious empire make it impossible to function without him? Without T.D. Jake in charge, some even wonder if the Potter's home could stay the same. He was more than just a preacher after all. He served as the ministry's public face. Without him leading every Sunday, could the church survive? T.D. Jake eventually spoke up after that. He issued a statement addressing his health crisis, his future, and the speculations circulating about him after days of conjecture. He did verify the veracity of the cardiac attack. He acknowledged that he had been exerting himself excessively. Furthermore, he did admit that he needed to change. This is the most absurd part though. He didn't say if he was resigning or not. Rather, he conveyed a message that was ambiguous to his followers. I've learned from this experience that we are all human, regardless of how strong we may believe ourselves to be. My life has been devoted to building, preaching, and helping. However, I now have to pay attention to my family, my body, And most importantly, God. He controls what comes next. People were astonished by what he said. Was this a sign he was going to retire? Was he getting ready for a significant change in his ministry? Or was he simply facing yet another challenge that he would overcome, just like he had so many times before? There was no doubt that this was a watershed moment. Would T.D. Jakes prove that this was only a short-term setback and return to the pulpit stronger than before? Would he gradually start to step down from leadership, laying the groundwork for his successor? Or did this mark the end of his stay at the Potter's home? One thing is certain, this narrative is far from over, but only time will tell. What do you think then? Will T.D. Jakes return or should he step down? Was this heart attack merely a medical emergency, or was it a more profound divine message? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, subscribe, and share this video with others if you want to be informed about this evolving topic, because everyone will be watching, regardless of what happens next.